Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Nagaman Chetty and John Kay.
Good morning. Our headlines: a weekend of preparations for England's most important football game in more than half a century. Fans and players were daring to dream.
Yeah, I know they'll all be there cheering us on around the country, and we just can't wait to hopefully try and win the game for them.
Business is gearing up for tomorrow's Euros final with brisk trade in the lead up to the match and a late start for many of us on Monday morning.
Fully vaccinated NHS staff could be let off having to self-isolate after contact with someone with COVID in a bid to tackle staff shortages.
Britain's Mark Cavendish cycles into the history books. He wins his 34th stage at the Tour de France, equalling the all-time record.
And why the search is on for 10 teenagers to go on the trip of a lifetime to the Antarctic.
Good morning. It's a cloudy, muggy start to our Saturday morning, but as the day slowly brightens up, well, you guessed it, it's another day of sunny spells and scattered showers. All the details coming up.
Good morning. Saturday, the 10th of July. In less than 48 hours, the whistle will blow at Wembley. It will signal the start of the most important match the England men's football team has played in more than 50 years.
No pressure. Victory tomorrow night against Italy would be the first major tournament win for the Three Lions since the 1966 World Cup. England captain Harry Kane has encouraged his team to enjoy these moments of history as excitement among fans. It's fever pitch. Here's Helena Wilkinson.
The excitement is palpable, the anticipation almost unbearable. These children in Suffolk cannot wait for tomorrow's match. After each England game, they've been out on the streets waving their flags. As England fans count down the hours, they're making sure their support is seen. Everything that can be decked out with an England flag has been. Millions will be watching from homes and pubs, which will be allowed to stay open an extra 45 minutes in case of extra time and penalties. Wembley will be filled with around 60,000 supporters. England captain Harry Kane says the support from fans means everything to the team.
Obviously, going into a tournament where we play a lot of games at home, it was important to have that connection, and we definitely feel like we've had that. So, I know they'll all be there cheering us on around the country, and we just can't wait to hopefully try and win the game for them.
As the match gets underway tomorrow, spare a thought for this divided household. Chef Giuseppe is Italian, his wife Sarah is English.
Half the family English, half the family Italian. I'm thinking, well, I've told this years maybe England deserved to win, but obviously inside me, I want Italy to win.
At the end of this, one of us is going to be really, really sad. And I want it to be you, not me.
Not long to wait now to see whether England's dreams really will come true. Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
You should have had one of those. Got the top. I think we should. We've got Phil Foden's hairdresser joining us a bit later. We're going to speak to him. We've got Sterling's foster parents who looked after him when he was a kid at Liverpool.
It's a lovely story because they're still in touch, aren't they?
We've got David Seaman joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got also, don't forget, there's tennis going on. We've got Annabel Croft joining us. We've got Chris Hoy to talk about Mark Cavendish's... No, we haven't got Chris Boardman. Chris Boardman we've got to talk about Mark Cavendish's brilliant achievement so far with the Tour de France. There is so much sport.
Tons of sport. And Gavin will give us all the detail and we'll dig deeper as well. And we've got the football covered from right now till Monday morning and beyond. So stay with Breakfast over the next few days.
4 minutes past 7 is the time. Other news to bring you. NHS staff in England could soon be exempt from quarantine if they are pinged by the COVID-19 app, under plans being considered by Downing Street.
Let's talk more about this with our political correspondent, Jonathan Blake, who joins us now from our London newsroom. And, Jonathan, this NHS app, has had a lot of scrutiny, hasn't it, over the last few days?
Morning, John. Naga, it certainly has, and the reason for that is because of the sheer numbers of people who are now being told to isolate, having come into contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19. If you haven't been pinged yourself in the last couple of weeks, you probably know somebody who has, and the fear is that this becomes unsustainable for employers, for the economy as a whole, and for the government as it seeks to strike a balance between lifting all remaining restrictions in England in just over a week's time, but also containing the virus enough so that the NHS doesn't become overwhelmed and unacceptable numbers of people in the eyes of the government die from COVID-19. So we're hearing about possible changes. We know that from mid-August, all adults won't have to isolate if they come into contact with a COVID positive case if they've had both vaccinations, and the argument is being made by those working in the NHS, certainly NHS providers, that hospital staff, NHS staff should be exempt from that sooner rather than later. So under consideration in government now is a plan to allow NHS staff to carry on working even if they get pinged by the app or told to isolate by test and trace, and that is before that comes in to play for all adults, as I say, in August. No final decision taken yet. Ministers do want to see that proof would be able to be provided by those staff that they've been double jabbed, and also that it will be safe for them to carry on working.
Jonathan, thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to date.
Meanwhile, medical leaders have warned that the pandemic isn't over and that things will worsen with COVID before they improve.
Yes, the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges says case numbers are rising dramatically, meaning people should continue to be cautious. Here's our health editor, Hugh Pym.
Hospitals have been reporting they're extremely busy, with numbers in A&E back up to the highest levels seen before the pandemic. There have been warnings that with increasing numbers of COVID patients, some non-urgent operations will have to be postponed. Now the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges says that the NHS is facing unprecedented pressure, with people who stayed away during the pandemic coming forward. It adds that while everyone wants to get back to normal life, a responsible approach when restrictions are lifted will be essential. The Academy says because of the success of the vaccine rollout, rising cases are not translating into previous levels of hospital admissions and deaths, though numbers are rising steadily.
Although far fewer people are ending up in hospital and dying at present than have previously, because the vaccine's helping, actually many of the people who get COVID will go on to get long COVID, and every person who ends up needing hospital care, needing care from the general practitioner, means that the NHS is going back under the difficult pressures that it has faced before, which is going to slow us down from getting back on with the backlog of work that we're desperately trying to clear.
The medical leaders go on to say that people should act with care, including wearing face masks in crowded indoor areas. The government has previously argued that a cautious approach had been taken with the roadmap in England, delaying the next step to allow for millions more vaccinations, so those most at risk are fully protected. Ministers in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are due to announce their plans for further easing soon. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Face coverings will no longer be recommended in school classrooms in Wales from September. Current guidance says they should be worn by secondary pupils if social distancing cannot be maintained. But Wales's Education Minister announced the change to bring some normality back to education. Face coverings haven't been required in schools in England since the 17th of May.
The former boxer Chris Eubank says he is devastated at the death of his son Sebastian, who's died just days before his 30th birthday. Sebastian had followed his father's footsteps and become a professional boxer himself. He died yesterday morning in Dubai, where he lived.
Haiti has asked the United Nations and the United States for troops to protect key infrastructure. It follows the assassination of the country's president on Wednesday. The killing has triggered some civil unrest in Haiti. The poorest nation in the Americas, a state of emergency still remains in force.
So the football kicks off 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Do you want to know who's going to win?
I know who's going to win.
On telly. Who's going to win? Because, look, if you don't want to know, look away now. These are mystic meerkats. They were given the English flag, the Italian flag. Hey, they chose England. That's a sign. That's a sign. That means it's going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? There is some bias we need to highlight here, because obviously that's what we're all about. That was taking place at London Zoo. So they were you know, England-based
meerkats. Are you suggesting that the Rome Zoo might have had a different result this weekend? Who knows? Maybe we should link up with them as well.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.